It's time to run it back. I'm your host, Sydney Clark, and we are back to recap and preview what is happening in the sports world. And with the special Moach approaching, aka March Madness, we have bracket predictions, KU men's and women's hoop, and more college hoops to discuss. But don't worry, we also have some professional sports coverage with MLS, NBA, and the NHL. Regular conference season is coming to a close, and the fight to Final Four is quickly approaching. Jackson Bezdek is here to cover my favorite month in sports with some bracketology talk. Bez, how's that bracket looking?
Thank you, Sydney. Guys, it's almost March, which means it's almost March Madness. Today, I'm going to walk you all through who I personally believe are the 4 number 1 seeds in the country right now and what to look for from them all month. To start us off, it's kind of hard to deny the dominance of the Houston Cougars this year, and although they don't even have a strength of schedule that cracks the top 100, they haven't won a game by less than 6 points since their slip-up against Temple in January. They're first in KenPom, net rankings, BPI, and the AP poll. Marcus Sasser is one of the best guards in the country, putting up 17 points per game on 38% shooting from 3. Any metric you try and find to say this team isn't a 1 seed, well, that's going to disappoint you. They're top 5 in both offensive and defensive efficiency, and because of their schedule, don't expect to see them slow down anytime soon. Do I think they'll go far in March? I don't know, but the resume speaks for themselves in terms of being the country's top seed. Coming off of some controversy, I still think Alabama should be that second number 1 seed as of now. Barring Brandon Miller keeps playing, of course, this team shows flashes of what a title team looks like. They also have a top 5 defense in the country, as well as previously mentioned freshman sensation Brandon Miller, who is averaging a nice 20 and 8. Where Houston ranks 1 in different metrics, Alabama is usually right behind them at 2. And even with the 8th hardest schedule, they still have 9 quad 1 wins. Bama is a 1 seed. Now we're here, the most battle-tested team in America, 15 quad 1 wins, first in strength of record, the reigning champion, Kansas Jayhawks. Jackson Reed will have more coming up for you on the Hawks, but I couldn't talk about the best teams of basketball and not mention the absurdity of having 15 quad 1 wins at this point in the season. With the win tonight against Texas Tech, I don't see a way with their resume that they're not a 1 seed, even if they lose out going into the Big 12 tournaments. Now, our last team just recently slid up into the 1 line in the heat of their 8-game win streak. UCLA Bruins, much like Kansas, are built on experience and defense. They have the second best defense in America behind Tennessee, as well as being top 4 in every metric ranking you can find. Seniors Jaime Jaquez Jr. and Tiger Campbell have been the backbone of this program for years, and with stud freshman Amari Bailey, they have a very realistic path to making their second Final Four in 3 years. It's been a while since I've looked through resumes, and I found a pretty clear 1 seed line, while Tennessee and Purdue do have great resumes as well, and they're no doubt right outside of these top 4. Tennessee just has 3 quad 2 losses, which makes it hard for them to pass teams with 0 and who also have more quad 1 wins than them. And Purdue is in a little bit of a slump right now, but I think they absolutely have a great chance to win 6 in a row. They just simply haven't played good enough as of late to be considered as a 1 seed in my opinion. So to recap, Houston, Bama, Kansas, UCLA. Those are the 4 I've got right now. Subject to change, of course, with Conference Championship Week coming up, but that's all I've got for you guys this week. Back to Sid for some more action.
This year's March Madness has a lot to live up to after last year's storybook ending for the Hawks. But how is this year's Kansas team looking as we look ahead, and how is the Big 12 race finishing up? We can only go to one person for this, and that's Jackson Reed. Jackson, how are the Jayhawks looking?
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the final regular season Kansas basketball update. I'm Jackson Reed, and as far as the Big 12 goes, Kansas is at the top, standing a full game ahead of the Texas Longhorns. But you may be wondering, how'd that happen? Well, Kansas, despite some troubles, got it done down the stretch against West Virginia and knocked off the Mountaineers 76-74. But while that game was taking place down in Waco, Baylor used a 52-point second half without Keontae George and knocked off Texas. So, Kansas, who was knotted up with the Longhorns entering Saturday, now stands a full game ahead of the Burnt Orange in the Big 12 standings. That makes the task simple for the Hawks tonight. Win against Texas Tech, and you are guaranteed to share the Big 12 regular season title. But the Hawks want the whole thing, right? So enter Saturday, the day Hawks fans have had circled on their calendar, another end-of-the-season showdown with Texas. If Kansas win that one as well, they will have the sole crown of the Big 12 and the 1 seed in the conference tournament next week. As for the rest of the conference, the rest of the pack is pretty much locked into place with 2 games left. Baylor is sitting in 3rd, with the only team challenging for position being Kansas State. TCU and Iowa State are now much closer than it may appear after the Cyclones lost last night. We have just 1 week to go in this wild Big 12 regular season, but we'll be right back here next Tuesday to preview the Big 12 bracket, break down the matchups, and much more. We'll be right back here after the break on Run It Back.
Welcome back, and don't worry, we have more basketball talk for you. Alex Dagey is back to discuss KU women's basketball with the end of their regular season coming to a close. Alex, how are the Jayhawks looking after this weekend?
Thanks, Sid. With only 2 more games left in the regular season, the Kansas women's hoops team went 1-1 last week. In Manhattan, for the second installment of the Dillon Sunflower Showdown of the season, the Lady Hawks struggled to get shots to go through the net. The Jayhawks had a quick start to the game thanks to some 3-pointers from Zakiya Franklin and Sana Strom. Throughout the entire first quarter, the Jayhawks led with the spread of as many as 8 points, and the second quarter of the game brought a large run of points for the Wildcats, bringing them their first lead of the game. They continued to not only make their comeback, but also come up on top 26-22 by the end of the first half. The Jayhawks continued to allow their rivals to go on long stretches of unanswered points throughout the second half, just continuing to grow that gap between the teams. Kansas finished with only 31.4 from the field and 5 of 23 3-pointers made throughout the game. The Sunflower State rivals split the series, each winning on its own home court. Back to Lawrence, Schneider finally earns win number 500 with a glorious victory over Oklahoma State Sunday, defeating the Cowgirls 66-57 and ending the OSU 6-game win streak. This big win can be attributed to Kansas's 4 players in double figures throughout the game. Guard Chandler Prater scored 18 and had 9 rebounds. Zakiya Franklin and Yvette Mayberry both came through with 15, and Tiana Jackson with her 18th double-double of the season. Monday, senior Tiana Jackson was named a semifinalist for the 2023 Naismith Women's Defensive Player of the Year. She is one of 10 semifinalists. The others are from some of the women's hoops most prestigious schools, but the 4 finalists will be announced on March 13th. Kansas is currently 17-10 on the year and 7-9 in Big 12 play. Looking at the final week of regular season, the Jayhawks will finish out the season playing number 23 Iowa State at home, and then will travel to Fort Worth to play TCU before preparing for the Big 12 championship. Now a new face, Ashley will be catching you up on the KU track and field team.
Thanks, Alex. The Jayhawks set 2 school records last weekend at the Big 12 Indoor Track Championship in Lubbock, Texas. Junior Michael Joseph beat the great Kyle Clemens school record in the 400 meter from 46:44 to 46:18. On day 2, Joseph beat it again with a time of 45:79. Senior Gabrielle Gibson in the 60-meter hurdles final improved her school record from 8:20 to 8:11. She now holds the 4 fastest times in school history. The Jayhawks had 3 title winners, including Patrick Larison in shot put, Riley Anderson in high jump, and Aaliyah Moore in the 800 meters. The men's team had 3 Jayhawks place in the top 4 for pole vault and 5 overall point scorers. Overall, the Kansas men placed 4th with 96 points, while the women finished 7th, scoring 54.4 points. The Jayhawks will attend the NCAA Indoor Championships on March 10th and 11th in Albuquerque, New Mexico, wrapping up their 2022-2023 indoor season. That's all I have for your KU track update. After the break, we'll be back with Sydney.
From adversity, we rose. We made history and became pioneers, voyagers, champions, Jayhawks. And when our chant rises, haunting and hallowed, Jayhawks are telling the world what's near. Victory.
Welcome back, and welcome back to the MLS season. Emily Baldwin is back live in the studio here to cover the league's opening weekend and where teams stand early on. Emily, I know you're happy soccer is back. What can we look for this season?
The MLS is back with new uniforms, new teams, and new players. There were 11 games on Saturday, but one game I want to highlight is Philadelphia Union versus the Columbus Crew. Philly came out with a vengeance after losing the MLS Cup last season and took down Columbus despite Columbus maintaining 60% of possession throughout the game. Columbus scored first in the 28th minute, but Philly would score the next 4 goals, 2 of which were PKs scored by Daniel Gazdag. The first PK came just before the half after a handball in the box. Their second goal came in the 51st minute, and then another handball in the box was called on Columbus after VAR review, which gave Daniel Gazdag his second penalty kick attempt and goal in the 72nd minute. Just a few minutes later, Philly scored its 4th and final goal after a perfectly placed through ball. Final score 4-1, Philly grabs its first win of the season. Another notable match was St. Louis City FC versus Austin FC. St. Louis had its MLS debut and beat Austin in Austin on Saturday. Tim Parker scored St. Louis's first ever goal in the 24th minute off of a corner kick. Austin FC answered just before the half with a cheeky chip by Sebastian Driussi. John Gallagher scored again for Austin in the 72nd minute, but Austin made a horrible mistake in the 78th minute, passing directly to Jared Stroud for an easy tap-in equalizer. St. Louis didn't stop there, though. Brazilian soccer player Klaus received a perfectly timed through ball and tapped in a third to give St. Louis the lead in the 86th minute. Austin had a fantastic header in the last minute of the game, but it ricocheted off the crossbar, and after a few more failed attempts for a late equalizer, the game was over. St. Louis records its first ever win, final score of 3-2. And finally, Sporting KC traveled to Portland for its first game of the season yesterday. The only goal of the game came in the 6th minute by Portland's Mosquera, who slipped the ball through the legs of Polskom. Sporting had several good chances throughout the game, including a chance towards the end of the game with a corner kick, barely missing the frame of the goal and sending them home with a loss. Final score of 1-0, the Timbers take the win. There is a full slate of games set for Saturday, and Sporting KC will take on the Colorado Rapids at 8:30 p.m. at DSG Park. That's all I've got, but with the start of the MLS season means we are nearing the end of the NBA regular season. Namdi has you covered on all of the craziness that went on this past week.
Hey guys, Namdi Yanike here to give you a quick update from the NBA now that the All-Star break is over. So let's kick things off with the reigning MVP Nikola Jokic making his case for his 3rd in the row, as the Nuggets are 2-1 since action has resumed, beating the Cavaliers on Thursday and the Clippers on Sunday, with Jokic having a triple-double in both contests. Surprise of the weekend has got to be the Chicago Bulls. Now, I know there's a lot of Chi-Town love here in Lawrence, so I had to shout out the Bulls for going 2-0 this weekend after adding the one and only Patrick Beverley, who the fan base is dubbing as the savior of the franchise. They beat Brooklyn 131-87 and Washington 102-82. The Los Angeles Lakers are starting to surge, and the new additions are beginning to click. They beat Golden State on Thursday 124-111 with a savior performance from Malik Beasley dropping a casual 25 points. They also took down the new-look Mavericks 111-108. The Mavericks are now 4-4 in the Kyrie Irving experience and 1-3 when the two play together. Now, if they don't find a defensive identity soon, madness could ensue in Dallas, with Irving set to be an unrestricted free agent this summer. Now, the last time San Antonio won a basketball game, classes hadn't even resumed here yet in Lawrence, and we are on loss 16 of the tank. They're sporting a 14-47 record ahead of tonight's matchup against Utah. Now, my hot take is that the Spurs are honestly in a good position. They have a lot of young wings that can ball and are working on their game under one of the most winningest coaches of all time. They just got to learn how to win. This top pick and another year of these young guns getting experience in the league, I could see San Antonio doing big things in a few years. Now, I would be remiss to not talk about Milwaukee. With their 14-game win streak, they are going to challenge Boston for that top spot in the Eastern Conference. And they're doing this without a fully healthy Giannis and Middleton as well. A super impressive spurt from a team with big championship aspirations. They take on Brooklyn tonight. And last but certainly not least is the showman himself, Dame Dalla, doing the most for this underwhelming Portland team. But let me tell you, there is nothing underwhelming about Damian Lillard as he poured out 71 points Sunday night against the Houston Rockets with 13 triples. He is in elite company as he ties for 8th place in single-game points leader, tied with Donovan Mitchell, David Robinson, and Elgin Baylor. Portland wins 131-114. The NBA and the NHL are both coming to a close soon. After the break, Richie Obeyed has your Chell update.
Have a nice day. You too. Have a great day. Thanks. You too.
Make someone's day. Pay it forward.
Thanks, Nambi. I still can't believe the unreal performance that Dame Dalla had. I also can't believe that he still has only played for one team in his whole career. something that the guys I'm about to be talking about cannot say. Let's not waste any time because I have a bunch of trades to talk about that have happened so far in the NHL. Okay, so let's start with the trade that set things off. On January 30th, the New York Islanders sent Anthony Beauvillier, Aatu Räty, and a conditional 2023 first-round pick to the Vancouver Canucks for star centerman Bo Horvat. The Islanders finally made a move for another superstar to play alongside rising star Matt Barzal. Horvat has already been an instant success for the Islanders as he has 8 points in his first 11 games with his new team. The other team from New York, the Rangers, also made quite the splash when they were able to trade for a premier goal scorer in Vladimir Tarasenko. They shipped off 2 prospects and 2 draft picks to St. Louis to make the deal happen. The impact of the trade was felt the very first game Tarasenko put on his new threads, as in his debut, he was able to score his first goal as a New York Ranger. As mentioned in last week's show, the St. Louis Blues decided to say goodbye to their captain and the man who led them to a Stanley Cup, Ryan O'Reilly. The Blues sent him to Toronto to become a Maple Leaf. The Leafs then sent back 2 players and 3 draft picks. O'Reilly proved that he's still very capable of being that guy when he scored a hat trick in just his 3rd game with the Leafs. Now, before I talk about the major trade that went down 2 days ago, I want to do a little rapid fire for 3 medium impact trades that have gone down so far. First, the Washington Capitals sent Dmitry Orlov and Garnet Hathaway to the Boston Bruins for 3 draft picks and Craig Smith. Next, the Nashville Predators sent Nino Niederreiter to the Winnipeg Jets for only 1 second-round pick. That's it. Lastly, the St. Louis Blues made another trade and sent Ivan Barbashev to the Las Vegas Golden Knights for young Canadian prospect Zach Dean. Okay, now, the final trade I have to report is one that happened on Sunday night. The San Jose Sharks sent Timo Meier to the New Jersey Devils for 4 players and 2 first-round draft picks. Timo is on many teams' radars, but the Devs are the ones who are able to get it done. Timo will most likely be inserted into the first line playing alongside superstar Jack Hughes and rising star Jesper Bratt. This trade immediately boosts the Devs' chances to Stanley Cup run. So, if you haven't noticed yet, 5 out of the 7 major trades I've talked about all strengthen Eastern Conference teams. And to make things even crazier in the East, the Blackhawks superstar Patrick Kane might be headed to the New York Rangers. It has been very public now for weeks that Kane is wanted out of Chicago and they are looking for trade partners. At first, the Edmonton Oilers were frontrunners, but now the Rangers look like they'll get the superstar as long as they can clear some cap space by the trade deadline, which is 2 p.m. Central Time this Friday. If this deal happens, I think this solidifies the argument that this year's Eastern Conference could be the best conference in the history of the NHL. Yeah, and now that's all I have for NHL trades. So let's kick it to Brock as he's back with the top 5 plays of last week.
Thanks, Richie. It was a crazy weekend of sports. We'll only have 5 slots for our top plays. Let's jump right into my top 5 plays from this week. Starting us off at number 5, we've got some college baseball, but it's not a player making his way onto the list. Look at this grab from this Texas A&M fan. Snags a rocket right out of the air with one hand, saves a couple people from behind him from getting hit, and he makes his way into the 5th spot of our top plays this week. Play number 4 comes from Jason Tatum. He models his game after Kobe beating Bryant, and just like his idol, Tatum hits the clutch game winner against Philly. Joel Embiid's full court shot would actually go in, but it would be after the buzzer, and the Celtics would win this one 110-107. Caitlin Clark is the best player in women's college basketball, and with her team down 2 in the final seconds, Clark drills the game-winning 3 to knock off the number 2 team in the country. The game winner gives her the 3 spot in our top plays this week. Check out this catch from Houston Baseball's Drew Bianco. Robs the home run and goes crashing over the wall. I've never really understood why this isn't a home run since the ball went over the wall, but an incredible catch puts Bianco at play number 2. Cougars would lose this one to Incarnate Ward 10-8. Buzzer beaters like this serve as a fair warning that March Madness is right around the corner. Arizona would make a free throw to go up 2 with 2 seconds left, but Desmond Cambridge sinks the game winner from well beyond half court as the Sun Devils upset the Wildcats in the biggest rivalry in Arizona. Well, there you have it, folks. Those were my top 5 plays of the week. Let's toss it on over to Sydney Clark for her feel-good moment in sports.
Thanks, Brock. For my feel-good moment, I'm going to the KU women's basketball locker room to celebrate Coach Brandon Schneider's 500th career win as a collegiate head coach. Let's take a look.
Let's go!
Well, that's all we have for today. We will see you next week, but don't worry, there are other sports shows you can tune into throughout the week here on KU Media Crossroads. Playmakers at noon on Friday with On the Clock to follow at 1 p.m. We will see you all next time. Have a great week.